All right, we're recording. We're rolling. Hello.
How we
Welcome.
doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Nathan Schwartz, dietitian and nutrition coach. Yes, I got that correct?
Yeah, yep. I'm a dietitian. I'm a dietitian nutrition coach and a personal trainer.
Love it. That's awesome. How long, we've been talking a little bit before I actually hit record, but I actually have questions for you because I've spoken to you online. We're both in the prescript. Are you taking level 1?
I passed level 1. I took level
Oh,
1
okay.
last June.
Okay. So you're still like just in the labs, and are you taking any other courses with them or?
So my roadmap right now is to take level 2 sometime in 2022.
Oh, cool.
It's on my docket.
That's awesome.
I've got a checklist of all their courses. I'm like, okay, this one,
Oh,
and
I
this
know.
one. So, such good stuff.
Shout out Prescript, they're great. Yeah. So I know you from class a little bit, and then I mean, what is really cool about that course? And again, I guess we're just talking about Prescript now, but it's been just a cool way to meet a lot of people in our industry. And like, you don't even live in Canada. Where do you even live?
Yeah, so I live in Iowa.
Iowa, lovely. Yeah, because I remember you gave me your number one time when we were talking about you were giving me some advice on something, and I was like, that is not Toronto. I just assume everybody's in Canada or Toronto or close to me, and that's so terrible. But then yeah, you're in Iowa. That's cool. How's Iowa?
It's good. You know what? It's not too bad. I mean, the weather's pretty nice. We just get really cold winters. That's about it. We get the occasional tornado, but honestly, in terms of like natural disasters and everything, our cities aren't super big. So it's still got that like small town feel kind of. So
That's how I picture it.
it's nice. Yeah. It's a nice place to live. It's definitely very low key.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah. So you live in Iowa, dietitian, nutrition coach. How long have
Yes.
you been doing that?
Yeah, so I've been a dietitian for almost a year now. I think 2 weeks from now, I'll be an official dietitian for over a year. And right when I got done with past my dietitian to credential, passed my exam, I went ahead and then got hooked up with a guy. His name's Tony Steffen. So he does what we call he has the dietitian nutrition coaching certification. So I went through both of his levels. I went through his level 1 and level 2. So to be a master dietitian nutrition coach. And then now I'm very fortunate that I get to now coach that certification, and we've almost enrolled 800 students, and we just give them education on how to scale their nutrition coaching business. So I've been doing that for almost 11 months now, which is crazy how fast that's gone. I was like, wow, here we are. We're 11 months in, and so it's been really fun to watch the impact that I've made on those dietitians' lives. In addition to my clients, that's why I chose to do it, because I was like, funny story behind how I got hooked up with him. I had a client, no joke. I worked with her at my other job, and she literally just one day just handed me money. Like, there's like, hey, I need help, and you're gonna do it. And if you can't fix me, no one can fix me. And literally just wrote me a check. And I literally about
What you want?
literally about crapped myself. I was like,
What?
I have no clue what I'm doing. So we just winged it for a while. We got some results, and I was like, okay, I got to find some sort of assistant. I'm going to lose this girl. I mean, she was losing weight and doing a really good job, but I was like,
Were you training with her? You were training her?
I was also training her. Yeah. So, it was just kind of one of those deals. I was like, I got to figure this out because I have no clue what I'm doing. So I got hooked up with him, went through the certification, and in my opinion, it's really changed my life in terms of just how I coach clients and how I get them results. And it was pretty much almost literally within 30 days of taking that certification, like I just saw a huge uptick in her results. And she was like, what are you doing? I don't know. What do you mean? And she's like, you're just able to get to my problem so much faster, you're able to really help me. And we really put in some really good systems that I'm very proud about. And she's down 100 pounds.
Wow. Crazy.
So, yeah, I always tell her that like when I make it big, she's the reason. Because honestly, I wouldn't even be doing this. Heck, we probably wouldn't even be speaking here right now if it wasn't for her just kind of taking the swing and just having faith that I knew what I was doing. And yeah, she's been with me I've trained her for almost 3 years and done her nutrition for almost 2.
That's amazing. What a story. Wow.
It's one of my favorite stories. I tell people that all the time. And they're like, why do you do what you do? I was like, well, here's the reason I do what I do, is because like she invigorated a passion. Because I was like, I'm gonna go performance nutrition. And then I talked to her and then listened to her story. Like, it really inspired me. I was like, wow, there's a need for dietitians to work with clients with weight loss. And when I was on my internship, I had a dietitian that was like, I'm a weight neutral dietitian. And if there's any dietitian that are weight neutral, I'm not insulting you. But she was like, I don't understand why you want to get clients to lose weight. Like they should just be happy with the way they are. And I'm like, okay, well now what are you going to do about all the people that are on Instagram that are doing all these shady things? That are doing cleanses and fit teas and insert whatever else I'm forgetting. And now those clients are getting taken for a ride, which essentially what this my first client got taken for. And I'm like, no, like we got to start fighting back. And so like through that dietitian and her, it just really invigorated my passion to be somebody in the industry that's like, okay, if you want someone for fat loss that's going to help you lose weight and essentially keep it off in forever, like I'm your guy, or I'm going to help you figure out who is. I just was so tired of every time I pulled up Instagram, seeing someone's like, I did keto and lost 30 pounds. It's like, well, congratulations. Let me see you 30, 60 days from now. And they've typically almost all put it back on. So it was just, it really just really inspired me to be like, yeah, there needs to be more people that actually know what they're talking about in this space for weight loss. It's not these, I was so sick and tired of seeing quick fixes. And I don't think people really realize that these quick fixes, yes, you will lose 20, 30 pounds in a month, but you're going to gain all of it back and more. And then it's just going to perpetuate this whole thing of I've failed. No, you didn't fail. It's just the person or system you found just didn't work for you.
1000%. I agree with everything that you just said. Yeah. And what that other woman, I think it was a woman who said that to you, was saying, like, yeah, it just depends on your goal, right? If your goal is fat loss, your goal is fat loss. If your goal is to accept your body at the size it is at, then that's your goal too. It's like there are different lanes and there's different people for everything, right? It's some people, the goal isn't fat loss, but for some people it is. I think the body positivity movement is incredible and it's amazing. It's changing so many different things, but I have people often now like coming to me, and if their goal is fat loss, they're like, I would also like some fat loss, please. Like they kind of like whisper it, and it's like, that's okay. Like it's okay. Like your goals are your goals, and what you want is what you want. And that's it. Right. I think there's different people for different lanes, and that's kind of cool that her juxtaposition helped you get on your track. Like, no, this is what I'm doing, and this is what is powerful. That's cool.
Yeah. And I really appreciated her really like trying to challenge me on it. Cause I was like, well, hold on a second. If I would say if it wasn't for those few people that really kind of challenged my thought process, I wouldn't be where, I am today. And I do like what you said. I am a big believer in the body positivity movement. I think it's a great thing, right? I think we do need to learn to love our bodies, but I also think that if you want to make a change, you should not be like made fun of, or you shouldn't be looked down upon as like, you don't, just because you don't like the way that you look and you want to change it, I hate that people are now like judging, oh, well, you should just love your body. If you want to make a change, and it's okay. And I just really want to make sure that, that they can come and they can work with me. And yeah, fat loss is like, can I have a little bit of fat loss on the side? It's like, we got to stop that. We just need to, I think at the end of the day, we need to just meet our clients where their goals are, and wherever their goals are, we need to just do that in a sustainable fashion. Because at the end of the day, they're paying us money for results. We need to deliver whatever that is. Now, if it's an unrealistic expectation, I feel like it's our job as coaches to be like, listen, okay, we may need more time, or we may need this before this.
Managing expectations is a big part of it, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're dropping, expectations, being reasonable with the expectations, and sustainability, right? Like those are some big words, and it goes into, people listening to this, maybe other coaches listen to this, but they may relate to this or not, but it's a big part of what we do, whether you're a trainer, nutritionist, whatever it is. Can you give like a brief definition of the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So they're very, very similar in terms of what they initially do. But so a dietitian has to go through 4 years of school, 4 years of undergrad degree, and now they have to go get a master's degree. And then we have to do a internship that is 1,500 hours of supervised practice. to become a registered dietitian. Now, what we bring to the table that a nutritionist doesn't bring to the table is we have what we call medical nutritional therapy. And the easiest way I can explain that to you is if you're somebody that has diabetes, we can give you use nutrition as medicine to help treat that said disease. Or like if you coming with somebody that has like a bowel obstruction, what do we got to do to work around that to make sure that said individual doesn't have a nutrient deficiency? Those are kind of what makes us different. A nutritionist can be anybody that took a class on the internet and got certified. And again, I'm not insulting those people that have those nutrition certifications. They all have a time and place, but a dietitian is going to have more well-versed knowledge right out of the gate versus someone that's a nutritionist. That's not saying that a nutritionist out in the space doesn't understand all these things. It's just we have that foundational knowledge and that evidence-based practice that we have to uphold through our accreditation body versus a nutritionist doesn't have that. They're just someone that they know a little bit about nutrition. And I think the word nutritionist is kind of taken a lot out of context. Anybody can call themselves a nutritionist.
Right. You asked me to call you a nutrition coach. I might mess that up a couple times, but we'll work on it as we go along here. Okay. Keep going. I think I cut you off there, but yeah, so basically school and scope of practice, right? And being responsible with what you can and can't diagnose or say or
bingo. Yeah. So like if somebody had like, let's say IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, right? A nutritionist isn't probably not going to be equipped with that knowledge to treat them. And as a dietitian is going to be equipped with that knowledge to treat them and can typically they'll order certain values to help with that. Like they may order like not a lipid panel, like a stool sample. They may order certain things like that to really help. Now, the functional nutrition aspect is becoming really huge. And that's where the dietitian, I see our field expanding in functional nutrition. And what they're finding is, and I'm not very well versed in the very details of functional nutrition, but what I can tell you is they're finding that they can really treat certain diseases with just straight up nutrition. There's some allergies that they're thinking that with some nutrition interventions, we can change, we can fix. And I think that's a huge area where dietitians are really going to thrive. And it's one of those things I'm like, well, who knew, right? Like I'm a firm believer that from the get-go is food is medicine. We look at a lot of the chronic diseases that we have, they're all stemmed from being overweight and obesity. Now, there's a lot of genetic components to those. I don't want to downplay that, but a lot of our issues that we have are just stemmed from, overweight, and genetics are another piece. I'm not a fan of I don't like to use the genetic card because what I found is with clients, oh, well, it's fate. I'm just going to be this way because of genetics. Like, no, it's not. Genetics don't play that big of a role. For diabetes, type 1 diabetes, absolutely. Type 2, there's a little bit of research to show that there's a genetic component, but type 2 diabetes with proper nutrition can be reversed. So now the damage may already be done, but we can reverse the effects of that.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I'm not. You can keep going if you want. My mind's going in a bunch of different places right now.
It's a really awesome. It's a field. It's funny because I've got all these lists of things I'm trying to like learn. Functional nutrition is the next area that I'm wanting to delve a little bit deeper in because I really do think that there are more things that we don't know. And as we learn more about functional nutrition, I really think that's going to be very game changing for a lot of clients moving forward in the near future.
And what would you say functional nutrition is?
The simplest definition is it's just using nutrition to treat diseases. Now, it's not going to work with all of them. I just really want to like make that disclaimer. I just don't want to be like, oh, well, we can just use nutrition to treat everything. I wish it could, but there's a lot of power in nutrition. I think a lot of people are now starting to find that like nutrition is very powerful. Like I always joke, like people used to think the dietitian wasn't very valuable, but we've been on the preventative side since the beginning of our field. I think now people are really starting to see that like nutrition plays a huge component, not just in performance, in weight loss, just how you feel, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's simple definition is just using it to treat diseases.
Mm. I'm thinking of something that I find myself saying a lot or relaying a lot to people. I'm sure that you can relate to it. It's fitness, nutrition, whatever it may be, but that you only really know how good you can feel once you feel that. And then you can see the stark contrast between before and after, right? After you do that thing, whether it's working out or eating better or whatever it is, suddenly you start to feel more energy, more better digestion, whatever it may be. And then you realize, oh my God, I was so tired before. And oh my goodness, I was always bloated or I was always in pain or whatever it is. But you don't see those things when you're in them for a very long period of time, right? Like not feeling well, not performing at your best, not having energy or whatever it may be. But sometimes it takes working at something hard enough and long enough to be like, oh, I feel good. Oh, this is this great feeling. Okay, I want to keep doing this, right? Because for a lot of people, I find, and I don't know if you can relate to this with your clients at all, but they don't know what feeling good feels like yet. So it's hard for them to be motivated or disciplined or any of that because they don't know that, I don't want to say the grass is greener, but do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I 100% know what you mean. Yeah, a lot of clients don't know what feeling good actually is because their baseline or what their normal, like having low energy, they just think that's their normal. So as dietitians, it's in my opinion, it's our job to just show them that brighter future and to help them like you're going to have more vitality. You're going to be able to play with your kids more. You're going to be able to feel more confident if that is your goal. As weight loss, we lose weight, our biomarkers, our health markers, for very simplistic terms, go down. And when certain health markers go down, that indicates positive changes in our health.
And that'd be like blood
So,
pressure.
well, yeah, blood
Yeah.
pressure. Some people, it's their blood sugar goes down, all those things. And there's other biomarkers that go down, and it's a positive effect on that individual by having more energy and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I only know that because I experienced it firsthand way back in the day when I started my health journey. And it was like, oh man, I thought like that was normal, being tired all the time. I thought that was normal until I started feeding myself better and including more vegetables and eating more protein, whatever it was. But it was just like, it wasn't something that I think I'd felt before, maybe since I was like a kid, it was like, wow, this is energy. And you just feel stronger. And of course I was lifting at the same time, but it's but only until I hopped over there was I like, okay, I don't want to go back. That was very motivating to me. And I remember that. And same thing when you have somebody who's doing really well for a long time and then they like say they go on a road trip on a weekend or they go camping or to the cottage and they indulge and they splurge, right? And they come back and they're like, I'm tired and I feel crappy again. And this is that feeling I felt before, right? And you can kind of like, you can sense the difference in your body and just how it is living.
Oh, absolutely. And typically with a lot of the clients that I've worked with and people that I've spoken with in the past, when you typically lose that first 10 pounds and you start seeing that momentum going is when you really start. And you probably felt that as well. I'm not 100% for sure. But when you start seeing that ball rolling in those positive changes taking place, you do start to feel better. But one of the things that I always let my clients know is that this is not going to be a fast journey. Like a lot of people think that like, oh man, like I'm going to be able to do this in 30, 60 days. It's like, it doesn't work that way. Like, depending on your weight loss goal, depending on what you're walking in with me, I don't know. Lifestyle, I think lifestyle is one of the most underrated, portions of nutrition. People are like, oh, well, just nutrition is nutrition. It's like, well, hold on a second. What is your lifestyle? It's kind of like, for us trainers that are writing training programs for a client, my opinion, I think, and I'm always biased on this, I think the best dietitians are personal trainers first, or at least personal trainers, because like I look at exercise programming and nutrition in the same light. Like, how we program for a client and getting them to their goals from a training perspective is almost identical to what we're doing with I do with my clients in nutrition. It's like, okay, have you done A, B, C? Everything sequentially flows together, right? It's kind of like, if one of your clients is like, I want a barbell squat, probably not putting the bar on their back right away. We're probably doing some assessments
Yeah.
to make sure that they can license the right to even use the barbell.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with nutrition and weight loss. And I always tell clients, it's like, have we licensed the right to lose weight yet? Is your lifestyle have we fixed some lifestyle modifications to get you to lose weight? And that doesn't mean we have to flip your world upside down, but like, Are you eating regularly? Are you stressed? Like if someone comes to me and I use a biofeedback scale, if somebody comes to me and says that their stress is a 5 out of 5, the last thing I'm going to do is diet them. That's the last thing I'm going to do is we're going to fix the stress, because 9 times out of 10 with the clients I've worked with, the reason that they've not been able to lose weight is stress. And a lot of it comes down to straight up stress eating. They're stressed, so they reach for some sort of food. So I spend a lot of time with my clients just paying attention to stress. Because I mean, and that's one of the things I always tell people that was what makes me different is I'm not just going to get you in and get you out just for the sake of, oh, cool, I did a transformation in 6 months. No, I don't care how long it takes, but my goal and my philosophy is to simplify things, but to make it to where you can do this for the rest of your life. And I am legitly your last stop for nutrition. I got so sick and tired of hearing, oh, I worked with this dietitian like 3 years ago. I lost a whole bunch of weight. And then here they are in my office, 50 pounds overweight. Or I worked with a personal trainer and I lost all this weight and feel great. No, I want to be your last stop for both. Like when you're done working with me, you should never, ever have to work with anybody else in the nutrition realm. Now, I know for a personal training, that's kind of hard sell because everybody might have different goals. But I'm going to give you the blueprint and the system that I use with you to succeed. And I'm going to make sure that you can do it before I even let you go. Because I don't want to let you go after you've worked with me for 6-9 months or however long it is, depending on your goals. And then I just see you 6 months later and you've gained it all back. It's like, I feel like I failed as a coach. I almost feel like I owe you money because you obviously didn't learn anything. I obviously didn't teach you if you cannot do this on your own.
That's wonderful. The world needs more of that. Trainers, dietitians or nutrition coaches, whatever it is. That's, yeah. There's so many through lines to training with this. I can understand how you landed up in both. Go back to biofeedback scale. What's that all about?
Oh, absolutely. So it's one of my favorite things. And it's something I wish that they taught in my undergraduate degree, but they don't. It's actually what I learned from my certification is I look at your energy levels. I look at your sleep levels. I look at your stress levels, your hunger. And then I also look at like your sex drive. Now everyone's like, oh my, everyone loves to like make fun of that one, but I have that there for a very specific reason. 2 reasons. I work with predominantly females. And I need to know, like, if, as 1 being low and 5 being high, like if it's low, and I work with females 25 to 35. And if you're rating those low, I need to then start thinking, is it hormonal? Like I need to dig a little bit deeper and look at that, because maybe I have to refer out, or maybe I need to bring somebody else in or refer you to an endocrinologist or refer you to somebody else just to get that under control. Or what can I do from a nutrition intervention first to get that under control? Because that's also going to affect performance. It's not just, not just your sex drive and normal. So like people always like, why is that there? It's a very important piece.
Yeah.
It's a screening piece. It's just, I look at what could potentially be a problem. And I use this scale to figure out, where am I going to start? Like, what is the low hanging fruit? Like, what is the first thing I'm going to do with this person? Like if they're super hungry, or if they rate 5 out of 5 for hunger, then I'm going to delve a little bit deeper. Why is that? Are they skipping meals? How much are they eating? Are they underfueling themselves? Stress is another one. Are they super stressed? Okay, cool. So now I need to know, I'm going to come in with a stress intervention. Sleep is another one. If they're not sleeping well, a lot of people, if they don't get adequate amount of sleep for what they need, which is usually 7 to 9 hours, depending on the individual, and they're going to eat more. If you are sleep deprived, there's a lot of science behind that says you're just going to simply eat more. So I need to go in and figure out where that is. Like, what are they doing? Like, I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with that they have their phone here and they say that they're not sleeping well. And I ask them, well, what do you do before I go to bed? They're like, oh, I just pull up the gram and I'm just scrolling. It's like, they go through TikTok or whatever. Next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock at night and they got to get up at 5 or 6. It's like, okay, well, just by simply messing with your phone is really preventing you from reaching your weight loss goals, because you're going to eat more, because you're going to be craving those high carbohydrate foods in a more quantity than before. Like you may, instead of having a cup of mac and cheese, you may have 2 cups of mac and cheese. With people like, well, it's not that big of a deal, but look at that compound effect over the course of the day. We make so many food choices. I think it's like over 1,000 food choices a day that we don't even think about. We may not actually go and do that, but like, oh, I want X, oh, I want Y. Well, when you're sleep deprived, you make those same decisions. You make those decisions and you're more impulsive about it. So you may just, you're going to typically overeat. Therefore, it's going to be very hard for you to reach your weight loss goals. You're probably going into the gym and not getting as much of a benefit as you'd like. Therefore, you have a negative association with the gym. Therefore, you're not valuing that as a good component of your time. Therefore, you don't do either. And then you just stay in this cycle of being stuck.
Yeah. And progress doesn't happen, and you feel even more, and most of what I talk about is because I've been there before too. So I relate to anything that I throw out, but that feeling of, it's me, I can't do it. I don't have any willpower. I lack motivation, whatever it is, right? When you find yourself in your cupboards, but really when you realize some of these things, like, oh, I didn't sleep that well yesterday. And oh, I actually skipped a meal yesterday, or I've been underfueling myself in all these ways. Of course you landed in front of your cupboard. Your body wants calories, or there's the stress component or the emotion component or whatever, right? It's great that, of course you bring these things into your work, but it's great that you do. And the sleep thing is really big too. A lot of people say, I'm fine, I don't need sleep, but I want to reach my goals. Okay. Okay. Well, I like that you say, no, you do not pass go. Here are these checkpoints. This is going to take a long time. I'm curious, have you ever lost anybody on that? This is going to take a long time, maybe months, maybe a year?
I did lose one gal, and that was my own fault because I didn't screen enough when I signed her on. It was just a mistake I made. I should have asked. I always ask qualifying questions in my discovery call to make sure clients are a good fit. And I worked with this person before, built rapport, super compliant, and then just all of a sudden just didn't do anything, and then was expecting these results overnight and was like, you said I could lose weight. And I was like, yeah, but you can't drink as much as you're drinking and still reach your. So there's some unrealistic expectations that I could not get through. And there were some life events. Honestly, I should just pulled the plug sooner, or just been like, hey, like I should have had a come to Jesus meeting a lot sooner than I did. By the time I was able to get to it, it was too late. So it was just it was a coaching mistake on mine. But again, you're going to have that, right? Because we're conditioned, we want it now. And it didn't help that what that individual was around was people that seem to get this instant gratification. But what that person didn't see behind the scenes was starving yourself, depriving yourself. I was trying to do it in a manner that this individual would never have to do it again. Mm-hmm. So I've only actually lost one person on it. Some people are like, yeah, like I can lose this. And no, you can't. I'm sorry. If you want to do this and have this weight stay off essentially forever, as long as you follow the blueprint, it's going to take 6 to 9 months, if not longer. Depending on the individual's weight loss goal, the most weight that I feel confident letting a client lose in a year is 50 pounds. Because if we go any faster than that, it becomes unsustainable.
Mm-hmm. And what about per week? If you could, because I think that might be useful for some people to hear.
2.5 pounds is the max that I let my clients lose per week.
All right. What's average? That's the max. Like, what would you look at to be like, okay, we're on the right track here. We're doing well.
So the maximum amount of weight I let a client lose is 2.5 pounds a week.
Okay. Yeah.
And if they lose 3 pounds, I'm giving them more calories. My goal is how many calories and how much calories can I pump into you while still losing weight? Yeah,
I was going to say, can you explain why if it's 3, you give them more calories? Just a little bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things I always want clients to be able to have is I don't want them to feel deprived of anything. Mm-hmm. And I want it to be very sustainable. And I don't want to have to put them in such a huge deficit. So that means let's say, I don't want you to be like, oh, I got to eat 2,000 calories less or 1,500 less. I really try to find the happy medium of having them being able to eat whatever they want in the quantities that they want while still losing weight. So it's a very careful balancing act that we follow.
And why is that important?
Yeah, so great question. So the reason it's important is because I always tell people that if you don't like it, are you going to do this long term? Yeah. So it's very important to me that they can do that, because if they have to start cutting out all their foods, then what I'm no different than some guy on the internet selling a cleanse, or I'm no different than a guy or gal on the internet selling their ketogenic diet magic pill or whatever they want to call it, or that whole system, right? I'm not any different than that. So it's like, well, then why pay the extra? Why invest extra into me if I'm no different than the guy down the road that's going to sell me this system for $100 versus your $350? So why, $350 to $500? So it's like, I need to have some sort of a differentiation. And also, like, from an adherence standpoint, like if you have to start cutting out all your favorite foods, if you have to go on a low calorie diet, there's no way that you're going to be able to go to a social gathering and be able to enjoy. That's another thing that I do is I also look at, is the client going to go to a social gathering? And I say, hey, maybe this week, I know you're trying to reach your weight loss goal, but what if we just make maintenance a win? Because I still want you to be able to enjoy the family function that you're going to, but let's just make maintenance a win. Let me give you a little bit extra calories. Let you have that. I do certain things like that to help them so they don't feel like they're deprived. Because I don't know how many people oh, I'm on a diet, I can't do that. Life's way too short, right? Like, who cares, in my opinion, like, who cares if it takes you a month extra to reach your goal? If you can still go to your family functions, you can still have date night with your spouse and significant other. Like, that's so important to me that they're never deprived. They can have pretty much whatever they want within reason, as long as they're still reaching their goals. And we have that discussion.
What do you think the biggest issue is with those? And whatever, you could insert so many words, but like 30-day cleanse, pills, keto, like whatever, right? I like that you said ketogenic diet pill, because it's like, that's like all of them mixed together with like a tea or something. But like, what do you think? Or even just like crash dieting, or, okay, I'm going to start on Monday, I'm going to go hard this week and, eat no sugar, no nothing. I'm going to drop my calories a whole bunch. Like, what is the main problem with that? What most people do?
It's not sustainable. Like they're like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna go. Like, it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, can you do? What I always tell my clients is, when I give them recommendations, like, do you see yourself being able to do these things forever? Now, I always tell clients, I recognize there's some things that we have to do that may not be super sustainable as we try to figure out what works for the individual, right? Because I may come up and do a recommendation that may be sustainable for you, but if I go give that same recommendation to somebody else, it's maybe not sustainable for them. Maybe you're somebody that goes out on the weekends and is okay only having one drink, right? And you're like, I'm fine with that. But maybe I have another client that has to have 2 to 3 drinks. I have to work around that, right? Now, if somebody's like, I want to have 6 drinks over the weekend, like a cola, we got to have this conversation of how that's not okay. But we will systematize and work your way to get to something sustainable, but it's sustainability, right? Like, that is the biggest problem with those. And I always, I never tell my clients anything. I always guide them into the right direction. I'm a firm believer just coaching them, because if I just told them what to do, then they're never going to learn anything, right? So, I always tell people that I would love to see the ketogenic diet, the Instagram pages. I would love to see the cleanse pages. Let me see the client in 90 days after their cleanse. Because I guarantee you, they're 30 or 40 pounds heavier than what they were before. And they spend way more money. Like, I always tell people, it's like, you realize that investing $300 to $500 per month, which is around about the area that I ask my clients to invest, and then you're spending $200 to $300 a week on
coconut oil, on avocados and bacon. Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? Where does this not make any sense here? Like, you could spend the same amount of money, if not actually less money. We actually calculated it out, like doing a cleanse religiously with some of those, I actually come out cheaper. It's like, what world? Like, there were some people that were spending $800 a month on cleanses, 4, 5, 6. It's like, why kill yourself when you don't have to? And that's what those diets do, is what makes me different, is those diets aren't sustainable. You're expected to fit in a box. And if you don't fit in that box, you're not going to succeed. You see so many clients, they just like force themselves into a box. It's like they're putting themselves like a square peg in a round hole. It's like, cool, you may be able to jam a little bit of you in there, but you're never going to be able to put your whole self in there. And then you're going to give up because you failed. And then you're going to think you're a failure because 3 months down the road, you're 10, 20 pounds heavier. And I feel for those people. Like, I feel very bad. It's not their fault. Like, people are like, oh, well, they're just not disciplined or they're not motivated. No, that is absolute bullshit. It's not their fault, because what does Instagram, what is their family, what is everybody is telling them that's the right thing? Because that's what those people did.
Mm-hmm. It's
So
like,
it's not,
you didn't fail it, the diet failed you, right? Or if diets worked, you'd still be on it. Or you wouldn't be hopping from this one to the next, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't, it's really what it comes down to at the end of the day, is that you're just really trying to fit yourself into something that doesn't work. It's a system that doesn't work for you. And what I do is, do I have a very systemized process that I take clients, a very similar system I take clients through? Absolutely. But it's very individualized and very different. I have objectives that I'm like, it's like everybody can squat, right? Like, as long as there's some, like, as long as they're not missing a leg or something, everybody can typically do a squat. Maybe everybody may be able to do like a barbell back squat, right? Maybe, as long as there's not some sort of injury. It's the same thing with what I do. I'm going to take you through very similar tenets to get to your destination, but we may go left when I go right with a client.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very individualized, and I see these clients every single week. So I really tap into the lifestyle component. Like, what are they doing over the weekends? How can I guide them to still reach their goals on the weekends, and not do the whole, like, I ate clean Monday through Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, I went out and just partied and I ate so much food. It just doesn't work.
How common is that too, right? And,
oh boy,
I lived it for a long time, but I generalize about women a lot. I should probably stop it. But I find that women, for the most part, don't eat enough. They eat so little, but then on the weekends or at the party or at nighttime when the kids are in bed or whatever, it's those like blackout moments that their brain chooses to not register, right? It's like, no, but all I ate was like a salad all week long. But it's like, but okay, but what about those other times, right? And again, some of them maybe are conscious or aware enough to say, oh, I really overdid it on the weekend. What's wrong with me? I have no willpower. I can't do this. I'm not good at this. But it's like your body, it's the restrict, overeat cycle constantly, right? And also like our own mental biases toward like what information we process and what we don't. Do you run into that a lot?
Oh, absolutely. Like, when I was before being an actual dietitian and being a trainer, I saw it all the time. It's like, well, no wonder. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you ate this way Monday through Friday, but then Saturday and Sunday, you're telling me you're eating all of this. Or prime example, at night, well, I just had a salad. And I'm like, well, what did you put in the salad? Well, I had, or like, I just had a baked potato. Well, what did you have with the baked potato? Well, I put butter. And it's like, okay, was it the baked potato or was it what you put around it? And I think most people just aren't even aware of how much they're actually eating.
Well, and that's the thing too about reporting food or logging food, right? And I like kind of about what you said earlier, but you've said it to me in the past too about like these habits. Some of them will change your lifestyle a bit, but it's not set in stone or it's not forever. And we've spoken about like food tracking on, say, MyFitnessPal. And when I was asking you for advice about something, you were like, people can track for a week, and maybe a week is all we need. It's not saying you need to track your food for every moment for the rest of your life, but just to kind of get an understanding, because isn't it the case that like 95% of people like overestimate the calories they ate or something? Maybe it's 100, but like for the most part, we underestimate the calories that we eat, and we overestimate how much activity we do. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And a couple reasons for that is, we got these cool little devices on our wrists now that tell us, congratulations, you burned 500 calories. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Are you saying the watch is not completely accurate?
Yeah. Who knew that, even though this thing is like $800 or whatever Apple charges for these watches now, I don't know. So, and like, oh my gosh, it's I burned 500 calories. No, you didn't. And they're just not very accurate. There's research that says that these things are 80, it can be up to 50 to 80% over reporting of how many calories you burned. It's like, holy smokes. Like, no wonder people can't lose weight by just listening to this. Well, I did everything. It's like, well, you just ate 500 calories because your watch told you, but you didn't.
Even like nutrition labels too, right? Aren't nutrition labels, like, they're not completely accurate either.
Yeah, but they're definitely a lot more accurate than the watch. You know, they're
Then,
like
yeah.
10. Someone's gonna call me out on this. It's like a 10% accuracy. Like
Oh, okay, that's not bad. I
I
thought it
think
was.
people forget like nothing's ever gonna be perfect. Like nothing's gonna be 100% exact. But
Mhm.
yeah, people 100% over report how many calories they burned, and I hate that because the reason I don't like that is because now we're putting a negative connotation of, okay, I can go do this workout and burn 1,000 calories, and I just ate 1,000 or whatever the case may be, and now exercise becomes a punishment. So that's why I'm not a fan of the whole like the class like burn 1,000 calories during this workout. I was like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like I was at an Orange Theory one day, and I know the people that are on Orange Theory are gonna hate me for this. And they list the amount of calories that these people are burning. It's like, no, you're not. Like, no, you're not. Like, quit letting them go down this pursuit, this rabbit hole of I burned 800 calories because what are they gonna go home and do? They're gonna eat 800 calories. Because
Yeah, I've never been a fan of that. I've had clients ask me like, should I be tracking how many calories I burn in a workout? I was like, just, unless you really want to, I'm good without it. Cause it just starts that whole mental. I also had a friend say to me recently, she was like, I want to get back on working out this week because Thanksgiving is this weekend. It was like, okay, girl, we need to have a talk.
yeah, we need to have a conversation
Do
because yeah,
not be jacking up your workouts just to eat a ton of, like, to plan to go crazy on the weekend. Eat Thanksgiving with your family and enjoy your family and enjoy food and like eat a little bit more than you normally would maybe, but don't be working out and don't go working out the next day just to burn it off. Work out the next day if you want to move and feel good and get stronger, whatever it is, right? It's tough to divide that up. I kind of
oh
hate that they do Orange Theory. That really sucks. No
yeah,
offense to
like
anyone, but
I know, right?
that's you know.
Yeah, and again,
For the whole class to hear, my God.
what do you say?
And shouting it out for the whole class to hear, like, Rick just hit this, like, that's like, oh, that's bad, but if it keeps people going and exercising, that's great. But yeah, that's.
I remember I was in an Orange Theory, and this was it wasn't a couple weeks ago, but it was when I was out of town. And I just like, I want to know what this thing is. Like, what is this thing? And again, I want everybody to understand this, listen to this podcast. I don't hate Orange Theory. I actually did it. And I think it was you. It was somebody from Prescript. They're like, I used to be a coach for Orange Theory. Maybe it wasn't you.
No, not me.
No,
I have friends who love it though, and it's like, get it. Like, I'm like, sure, whatever gets you going, like, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. No
absolutely. But that was my only criticism was like the coach went over to me and was like, you burned like 400 calories. And I'm like, no, I didn't.
Did you say no? I didn't actually.
I was like, this was like the filter sometimes doesn't shut off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I actually didn't. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, these things underreport by like 50 to 80%. Like, no, sorry, but it's no worries. No worries. Just
Still enjoy the workout. Yeah.
I was like, I enjoyed it. Like, but that's my biggest criticism is it just brings people down this rabbit hole in pursuit of exercise is punishment, which, like you said, exercise should not be punishment. It should be, celebrating what your body can do. So like, if you're someone that does Orange Theory and you love the way you feel, rock on. If you're someone that wants to squat like 500 pounds, rock on. If you're someone that just wants to go in there and this is the joke I always make with people, and swing a kettlebell around for 5 minutes and then let me fix what you just did, rock on. Like, I don't care. I think it was Killen, if he listens to this. I think he was like, it doesn't matter what they do in the last 10 minutes of the workout. So just let them do whatever they want to do. And then we can
enjoy it. Yeah.
And we can fix it, right? It's, I think we need to start, not that I know this is nutrition, but I think we need to stop getting away from like this whole optimal pursuit. It dovetails right into nutrition. Like, we need to get away from focusing on, and that's what I love about fitness and nutrition and why I decided to marry those two together, because like the parallels are so similar. Like how I'm going to get to a specific goal is going to be so differently than you. And you may be on the pursuit of like squatting X weight. I may be too, but how you're going to get there versus how me are two completely different things. It's just kind of like with weight loss, right? Like, or your health goals, right? Like how you may get to it, how you may lose 50 pounds is differently than how I may lose 50 pounds. Now, is that to say that any way is right or wrong? No. I think the only wrong way to do it is if you can't keep the weight off. So if the system that you were given doesn't have a protocol to make sure that you don't gain the weight off, then yes, that is the wrong system. I'm not a fan of saying that, but with the way nutrition is and these short-sighted things, I feel like it has to be said, you know? So, and that's one of the things that I do with my clients is I have it's very gimmicky and people can make fun of me, but I call it the future-proof stage. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, after we've gone through the acceptance phase, after we've gone the get to know you phase, the results phase, the recovery phase, and the recovery phase is where we rebuild the metabolism, because when we've gone on a weight loss journey, your metabolism does get slower. So then we rebuild it via a reverse diet, which I think is the closest to magic that there is. Most clients can increase their metabolism by 500 to 800 calories.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's utterly insane. Like I did it on myself. Like I was like, oh, because I was like, this is gimmicky. This doesn't work. There's no way it works. And then so I got a book and read about it and went through it and I was like, oh, they actually weren't kidding. So yeah, you can increase your calories by upwards to 500 to 800. So now that we've got you, what?
Sorry, going from, just explain that bit a little bit, because I think people would be like, whoa, wait, what? How do I, like, so you're in a deficit for a certain amount of time, maybe a less gentle over time deficit. But then, so why, maybe my question should be, why can't you just keep being in a deficit forever?
Yeah, because your body, the simplest answer that I can give you is your body doesn't like to be in a calorie deficit forever, nor should you be. It's like the easy example I can say, it's like you should never train maximally for every single day. Now, it's a funny story. I did that one. What?
Good analogy.
Yeah, it's in I did that once, and I am an idiot for doing it. But I was like, no, it doesn't work that way. What?
You lived through it. That's good.
Yeah, I was like,
here.
I'm gonna max out every single day because that is the cool. No joke. I did this for like 4 months. I got kind of strong, like at the get-go, because it worked. And then like 60 days later, I went.
Yeah.
And I felt
like dieting, I thought I could be in a deficit forever, because I was like, well, no, I can't let myself eat more calories. I need to keep on this train. And it stopped working, and I kept going on the deficit, and it just like unraveled on me.
Yeah, I like to look at it from this way, is when we look at that biofeedback scale, look at all of the markers except, well, actually stress may go up. That, stress goes up, hunger goes up, energy takes a nosedive, and then, yeah, everything just pretty much goes down. Like you just feel like crap. You don't have energy. Your body was not meant to be in a deficit forever. So why keep your body at a deficit forever? It just doesn't make sense.
And can you explain why the metabolism lowers in that situation? Like what's happening there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in very simplistic terms, it's like your body goes into what we call survival mode, and I use that in air quotes. Yeah, air quotes, because your body really doesn't go into survival mode, but it's the easiest way I can get it.
People yell about that on the internet. Survival mode doesn't exist.
It really doesn't. I mean, unless you're like over in like, from World War II, or like you're legitly starving yourself. And when I mean legitly starving yourself, like you actually have
no food.
No food. It doesn't really exist. But so essentially what happens is, let's say you start at 2,000 calories. Let's say that's what you need to maintain weight. We've dieted you down, you get lighter, right? So like anyone that drives a truck, like the gas mileage is atrocious, right? You put gas in the truck and you pay like $80, right? Or whatever it is. I don't know what gas is now, but it's going up, right? But so now we got the good old hybrid. When you reach your weight loss goal, you're a pretty fuel efficient machine, right? Like you go to the pump and you may pay $40 to get to.
You don't need as much fuel anymore because your vehicle or your body size is smaller.
Bingo. Yeah, you're smaller, right? So you're smaller. So your body's like, well, there's no need for me to, burn these extra calories. Our bodies, like what people forget is the human body's super efficient and it's super adaptable. So if it finds out that you can live off of like 1,500 calories, you will. Now you may not have a lot of energy, but your metabolism gets slower because you get lighter, you don't have as much like lean body mass or as much muscle. So you're not as expensive to maintain. So we have to repair that metabolism slowly and show your body that like, hey, like we can grow now. We're not in a state that we don't know what our next meal is. That's the easiest and most simplistic way to explain that. And stuff like that. And then that's where the reverse diet comes in. So let's say that person's reached their weight loss goal. I always let people know, hey, we're going to get you to your goal and we're going to gain 2 pounds. And they all look like, oh my gosh, we're going to gain 2 pounds. And it's like, I really wish like they could all have a mic, because you feel like literally I'd like take all the wind out of their sails. I'm like, it's 2 pounds.
But like nobody's scared about it. Like I feel like some people would be scared. Like,
oh no, they freak out about it. It's like, oh my God, like we are not gaining 2 pounds. And I'm like,
I just did all this and now you want me to gain weight? You're crazy. And yeah.
And I'm like, well, what if we just got you to gain like and some clients actually don't. Like some clients don't. I was like, well, but if we just gain a hair, just a little bit, I could raise your metabolism up to like 500 to 800 calories. Like, could we agree that that's not amazing?
So then you can continue to maintain your weight, but at a higher calorie input. So you are able to eat a little bit more and still maintain the weight you're at. And that's important to do, because otherwise, so your metabolism is kind of like growing with you in a way.
Yeah, it's like building muscle. That's not the most scientifically accurate way of saying it, but essentially it really is, right? Your metabolism is burning and you're feeling your body, you're giving it what it needs. You're able to put on muscle, you're able to do all those things. And now everything's working how it should. Because when you're in a caloric deficit, you're in a stress state, right? And your body doesn't like to be in a stress state forever.
And what happens to body composition in a stress state?
So you're going to lose lean body mass, because remember, your body is very smart. And it's like, well, I don't need this muscle. I don't need this. I have got to protect my vital organs. So it's going to spare lean body mass at that expense. Like now, muscle. Yeah, like muscle. Yep. Are you going to still lose? Yeah, you're going to still lose weight. Absolutely. You're going to still tap into your fat reserves, but you're going to lose a little bit of muscle or lean body mass. And stuff like that. So usually the average is for every 1 pound of weight you lose 70% fat, 30% muscle.
Oh, wow. Okay. I've never heard that broken down into numbers before. Why is it important for people to preserve lean muscle mass lean mass?
Yeah. So, why it's important to preserve that is there's studies out there to show that the more lean tissue we have, the more functional we are. The more functional we are, the more we can do our everyday activities that in that functional space. The more lean body mass we can have. For most people that are like females that are going after that toned look, we can still help. We can preserve that. So that's why it's very, very important. And that comes by eating a higher protein diet, because protein is going to help protect the loss of muscle.
It's wild too, because I'm thinking back to like when before I became a trainer, I dabbled in all this stuff like bodybuilding and diets and all of it. And again, I was restricting myself for years and years and years, and it stopped working at a certain point, but I kept doing it even harder. Okay, I need to like go harder on this and drop my calories even more, right? And the first time a coach told me to eat more, I was like, hell no. And he was like, this is how many calories you're eating. This is how many you need to be eating just to maintain your body weight. And I was like, it was so much more than what I was eating. And I was scared about it. But once I started to do it, and namely it was more carbs, because I really want to talk about carb fear with you, because it's such a big topic in my mind and in my life. Because people are still so afraid of carbs. And I used to be that person too. But once I increased all this stuff and started feeling my body properly, and I actually ended up looking way better and feeling way better. And all of the results that I wanted were coming. But because I was doing like a lot of the things that you're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny when it comes to carbohydrates is I cannot tell you how many clients like come to me like, I cannot have carbohydrates. And it's a byproduct of the ketogenic diet. Like, I hate to say that, and because I think all those diets have a time and place, and if they work for you, great. But it's because of that. It's because people are taught like, oh my gosh, carbs are going to kill you. No, they're not. They're the body's preferred energy source. What?
That's extreme. I've heard carbs make you fat, but carbs are going to kill you in your sleep.
Yeah, literally, like the carb fairies are gonna come and
Bread
like,
with arms and feet. Yeah. I had a client say the other day, I'm eating bread twice a day. I want to stop that. Is that bad? And I was like, no.
no,
And I was like, is this because I was like, I'm curious, is this because it's bread or because it's carbs? And she was like, I think it's both. I think I'm afraid of both. And I was like, okay, this is still like alive and well. And I talked to people. I have this story, but I was eating a wrap in a park with a bunch of friends, a wrap, one single tiny wrap. And someone was like, oh my God, Vanessa's eating carbs. Are you okay? Are you sad? And I was like, when you just don't have enough time to like educate somebody and you're not sure it's going to stick. I was just like, and you feel like defending yourself, or like I was going to talk about how much I lift, or I was just like, no, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm like, no, I'm not sad. And you don't just eat carbs when you're experiencing a breakup. It's just like, there's still so much misinformation out there and fear and it's wild.
yeah, and it really comes down to the whole thing of like, everybody thinks that we gotta find there's like this magic answer to like weight loss or losing weight. And there's not. I mean, the only constant we know are the calories in equals calories out model. And smart people, like people with doctor's degrees, still want to debate this. Well, no. They're like, well, we got these studies where like, like these people were tracking their intake. Were they calorie control studies? Were they actually exact? Because we know people under and over report. Like, those aren't actual, like they're great data, but like if you actually give someone 1,500 calories and we figure out what their maintenance is 9 times out of 10, if we put them in a caloric deficit, they lose weight. Like it's just the law of thermodynamics, and people want to find a way to make it an excuse of not, which now when it comes to carbohydrates, people are like, oh, well, the reason we're all overweight is because we're eating too many carbs. And it's actually funny, or sugar is really what people are like, oh my gosh, like I can't have sugar. It's like, well, I hate to break it to you, but carbs are sugar. Your body actually breaks all that down into sugar, and your body needs it. It's the overconsumption that people are forgetting, because people on the internet, they have no clue what they're talking about, want to get up there and be like, I lost weight not eating carbs. It's like, well, cool. So what? Like, I don't know, like maybe
carbs, we're talking about rice and sweet potatoes, but I think when most people think I'm cutting out carbs, it's ice cream, pizza, all these like highly caloric foods, highly processed foods that pack a huge punch, right? So of course, when you remove them for your diet, you're going to see some short-term results, but carbs are, it's so much more than what I think people's brains typically go to. You definitely hit the nail on the head there with the people want one thing, right? And I understand that, because it would be so much simpler. Oh, just cut out carbs and then it fixes everything, every single health ailment. And okay, so I'll just do that and that'll be it. But the answer normally is it actually takes a lot of time and introspection and finding a balanced approach and a sustainable approach and all of the other work, and you have to sleep better and like all this other stuff too, right? Which is hard to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things too, that I don't think people really realize is that like it's not the sugar or carb consumption that's the problem. Like if you look at data, like our sugar consumption has gone down. Like, so we look at these cool little charts, the sugar consumption has slowly gone down, but our calorie consumption has gone up. So it's like, oh, cool. So like, that's what I always, when I talk to people that like want to actually have a full on debate, like, oh, it's carbs that are bad. It's like, interesting, because this chart says otherwise. And this has been around for a long time. And then I asked him, I was like, now how do we debate this? Like, you're telling me that like carbs are the problem, but the calories keep going up. So I said, explain that to me. And typically by the time like, I don't know as exactly, it's not that, it's the overconsumption of everything. Like, you're just over consuming. That's all it is. You're eating more than you're burning.
There's that show Explained on Netflix. Have you seen it? They do like little segments on, you see the one on sugar?
I did not see the one on sugar.
Oh, it's great. I loved it. I was like, cool. That's a lot of great information for people to know, talking about like the way we demonize it and certain things and history of it and all the different forms of it. And they go into artificial sweeteners and all that stuff. It was cool. It was really nice.
Yeah, usually I'm very hesitant with Netflix documentaries, because after the whole Game Changer documentary came out, and then
oh my God.
like literally, I cannot tell you how many people's days I probably ruined.
That one
because,
really did it, eh? I remember
oh
being
boy.
and every client who came in was like, I saw a game changer. And it was like, wow, this one is having a really, really profound like effect on people. Like people really, and I haven't heard about that since.
I mean, it got to the point, like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, I remember the documentary came out and everybody wanted my opinion on it. It got to the point where I just stopped telling people because I felt like every time they'd ask me that my opinion, like, it was like they were wanting me to validate their answer. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. Like, just because this guy from, I think it was UFC, just because he, like, I think people forget that, like, if there's a celebrity and this company comes to this celebrity and be like, hey, we're gonna pay you X dollars, would you market our product? Of course the celebrity's gonna say yes.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it too, right?
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Kai Green, I think, did something too of like, I'm gonna go keto or whatever. I don't remember what it was. I was like, guys, can we stop this? Like, yeah, and Arnold Schwartz, it's like, I don't know. That's my biggest problem with like Netflix documentaries is that like they just don't look at the science because the science behind everything.
I want to go back to way back. I don't know why, but it just popped up in my head about sex drive because that is typically linked to, well, I mean, in my experience and profession, it's overtraining or under eating, right? And I'm not talking about like hormonal issues or any of those things because again, not my scope of practice. But I find, and I found for myself as well, with many women who do the low carb thing for way too long, that's one of the first things to look out for, right? Is the low sex drive thing.
In terms of low carbohydrates.
Yeah. Or is it
Not
just low calories overall?
low calories overall is the
Okay.
first thing I look at, right? I look at like, okay, why is it low?
Mm-hmm.
And I have that conversation, like why is it low?
I
To,
just think it's important to get out there, because not a lot of people, of course, there's so many reasons why your sex drive could be low. But I think for a lot of people, they think, oh, it's my partner. We got to go to therapy. We got to do all the, I got to read all these books about sex. But like, it could just be you're underfueling yourself or overdoing yourself, overexerting
oh,
yourself in the gym.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I mean, I think people like legitly forget about that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like if you're just training super hard and you're not feeling yourself properly or you're super stressed, like that's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's a red flag, right? Your sex drive is gone. That means your her endocrine system isn't working as it could be, or, I don't want to say should, but yeah, it's like, that's a serious thing to look at. I think a lot of people kind of just like, oh, whatever, it's my relationship or something else, but
oh,
like, no, that's a big problem.
absolutely. And it's not just females. Like guys need to take inventory too. Like, I mean, I'm just gonna be super transparent, but like when I did my internship and I was doing all these things, like I would if somebody came to me and gave me the biofeedback scale, I would have given it a 2 because
Mm-hmm.
I was super stressed. And that was legitimately the last thing that I thought about. And the thing of it is like and I think people like they don't take that into consideration. And then you look at like, and this is also like when I look at my nutrition coaching, like how I can sell like my value to you, because like look where it's doing, and I look what it's doing to your potential relationship. Like the thing I don't like is the fact that when I put it on an assessment, it becomes such a taboo topic.
Yeah,
Oh, well, we can't talk about that because we're talking about nutrition. It's like, well, hold on a second. Like,
who says that though? Clients or other practitioners?
oh, other practitioners like they're like, I cannot believe that you put that on your thing. And I'm like, why? Because like I need to know, like, are there hormones out of whack? Like, what's going on? Like, because that's also an easy question that I can use to like, do I need to refer out to a therapist? So it helps me stay in my scope, because if it is psychological, like you said, cool, go to my referral network. Who do I have as a therapist? Do I need to refer them to somebody? Or is it just simply that like they're just super stressed, they're underfueling their body, we need to do some nutrition interventions and call it a day,
Just the word sex is so taboo, right? It's like, we're not even talking, we're not asking anybody, consent. You build a rapport with a client, you get, I'll ask my clients that as well. Like once I get to know them, and if they are having energy issues or other things, it's like, well, how's your sex drive? Da, da, da. yeah, that's, I guess, another topic, but that sucks that you're getting some like giggles or some people who think that's weird, because it's super important to consider. And again, it's not something that people, I love when people mention it, because I'm like, that is so important to really drive home to people. It's kind of like not pooping, like I had a
Yeah.
friend once who I was like, how often do you poop? And she's like, once a week. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Wait, what?
What? And I was like, that's not, and she was like, and she had no idea. She was like, yeah, no, it's like, that's normal. And I'm like, no, that's a big deal. It's just like the sex drive thing, like like these questions are important, right? And again, do I need, that's information for me to know if I need to refer out or do other things for her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think at the end of the day, like I look as myself as being, a practitioner and and a coach and a trainer, is it's my due diligence to make sure that the client's well-being is put at the utmost important. And honestly, I don't really care whose feelings I hurt. And and I'm not saying the client's feelings. I don't care. That's not what I meant. Like, I don't care like the outside. Am I hurting the outside world's feeling? No, all I care about is that client and giving them the best results possible. So if I've got to ask those tough questions, you better believe I'm going to ask those tough or taboo questions. Because if I didn't do that, I am not doing my due diligence and I'm not putting the client first, which, that's one of the things that it's very important to me, that it's always the client first. It's never what selfish pursuit that I have. No, I don't really care. It's what do they want? And I want to make sure I give it to them. And if I'm no longer in my scope, then it is my duty to refer them out. Or maybe I don't have to completely refer them out. Maybe we just need to bring somebody else on board to work with us and we become a team.
Team approach. I like that.
Yep.
I'm big into that too. I'm big into refer. Yeah. I only have a couple clients who bite because I'm like, usually, this person, this person, this person. And I have a couple of them who are like, I went to see the massage therapist and this person, and it's great. And we all treat them together and we communicate and it's awesome. Not everybody bites on the suggestions you make though, right?
Absolutely.
And hopefully, the big thing too about just being a nice person and a responsible person is you probably cultivate a practice where if somebody was like, oh, I'm not comfortable sharing that, they would tell you, like you create a space where it's like, I'm going to ask you these things and it's like consent, right? If it's a no, you don't need to answer any of it, but hopefully you build a space that is one that people are comfortable doing that. We were talking, oh, sorry, go.
No, what were you going to say?
Well, we were talking in that lab about like confidence in the gym. Maybe I won't bring that into this too much, but about helping clients build confidence in the gym. And I was going to say, like, you're already doing the first part, which is just be a nice, kind person with a smile on your face who is listening, making eye contact, and like creating like a safe space, right? You're already, I think that's just like a lot of answers in terms of this kind of stuff, right? You're creating space where the client feels okay to share certain things with you, and boundaries are important too, but
Absolutely, boundaries are real.
yeah.
I learned that the hard way over my personal training career. Like, oh boy, like I don't know about you, but like we could talk for like 2 hours about all the boundary mistakes that we've made with clients and how we paid for them.
Just learning from any mistake I've ever made. Like anytime I'm like, oh, okay, I think I like you mentioned about your client earlier, right? Like that moment probably taught you, okay, my next intake, this is what I'm aware of. I got another layer of, the more people that you treat and you see, the more like fleshed out your business is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But what I like about what you say too is about just creating that safe environment, right? Like I think that's really important, is that like, when somebody does work with a qualified individual in the nutrition or fitness space, is making sure that is something like, do you feel comfortable sharing that information with your coach that you're working with? Because if you're not, I think you need to find somebody else. Because what I tell my clients is the more you're willing to share with me, the better I can help you, and recognize this goes nowhere. This is just between you and me. Like we're just popping on a phone call, we're having a conversation, and I just need to know what information do I need to know to help you to reach your goals. And sometimes you have to ask those hard questions, but that's very important to me. Like, what do you say?
We're not therapists. No, I was just gonna say we're not therapists. However, nutrition and fitness and all of the things that we do are very personal endeavors, and we're seeing these people multiple times a week for months, years, so it's you that the rapport gets built and things get shared, right? It's just it's how it needs to go. Sometimes we're working with human beings.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing is like, I think clients just need to know, like, and I know you are as well, because I remember you reached out to me about a client, way to do your due diligence about a nutrition client. And I remember you reached out to me. I was like, I don't know what to do here. I was like, well, let's pop. Like, I think you're surprised. Like, let's pop on a call. Like, let's talk. I was like, no, like, I was like, if you're willing to ask me a nutrition question, I'm willing to take whatever time of the day to answer for you.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Lovely. Like, yeah, reference. I DM'd Nathan a nutrition question for one of my clients, and he was like, let's get on a call. And we talked for a really long time in your workout, and you helped me out so much. And you offered to get on a call with my client for free. And just like, yeah, you were, again, I'm loving this community that I'm now a part of because of Prescript. It's great.
yeah, we just need to plug Prescript, like, like it is what it is, like it's a great, it's a great community. I think, again, we never would have got connected, we never would have been. And again, I think, what they're doing is kind of like what I'm trying to do in the nutrition space. I'm just really just trying to change the world. I want to show clients that you can lose weight, you can reach all your weight loss goals and have it be sustainable. Eat all the favorite foods that you want. And literally, it's very important to me that I'm your last stop for nutrition. And you never have to work with somebody ever again. Bad business model, because 6-9 months, see you later. But, I never kick clients. I don't, people don't know. It's like, I'll let you can hang out with me as long as you want. Like, you just,
you let them out of the nest, right? You release them you let them out of the nest, or whatever that saying is. Birds.
Yeah, when they want to leave the nest, they can. When I always like, when I feel they're ready to leave the nest, they can leave the nest. But if they want to stay and hang out, and because I think people forget, like I've had personal training clients for almost 3-4 years now. Could they do it on their own? Absolutely, 100%. These people can do it on their own, but the accountability, right? Just that accountability is huge, even after you've learned all your skill sets. So I always, want people to know that listening is like, oh no, like if I work with Nate, like I got to be done in 9. No, you don't. You can hang out with me as long as you want. Like,
yeah, I love this. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't really care. Like if just me being there, like I got a gal right now that I'm probably gonna keep for the next year. Well, probably once she reaches her weight loss goal, because she just loves, like, I just like that I can, even if I don't need anything, literally there are weeks that literally I don't need to do anything with her nutrition, but she just, and this is I think the missing piece. She just needed somebody to pop on a call with her and tell her good job and keep doing what you're doing. Like, I don't think people really understand the value in that 10-minute phone call. And I had that with a client today.
Pandemic. Especially during the pandemic. I found that so much during the pandemic. I was like, oh, my work is now like so much more important, because exactly what you just said, the power of just being seen and heard, because some people don't have outlets for that, right? Of course, I'm training people, but there's a lot of like, hey, I have this call with Vanessa at this time, 2 times a week, or whatever it is, right? But yeah, that's what you just said is super important.
Yeah, because I mean, again, there's clients I work with, that I do see all my clients every single week. And there are times I don't change anything, but it's just simple as like, hey, you know what? You're doing a good job. We don't really need to change anything. Just awesome job. I'll see you next week. And that's sometimes what clients need. I think sometimes our clients think that we got to reinvent the wheel every single week. No, we don't. Sometimes it's just keep doing what you're doing. High five, great job. How you doing? How's everybody? And I think forming that connection is one of the things that, I always tell people is like, yeah, do I want to be known in the space, for helping, clients through their weight loss goal? But I also, at the end of the day, that I want the client to know that, like, it's not just a simple transaction of you give me money, I give you results. It's, I want you to know, like, oh my God, like, I cannot wait to pop on a call with Nate, because like, even on days that I feel like the world's coming out of the way, I'll just take some of his energy. I'll take some of his passion. And he actually cared about me as a human being, not just dollars in a bank account. And that's one of the biggest reasons for me. And people are like, well, why do you make clients invest so much? Because I cannot work with everybody.
Yep.
And I only want to work with a very select subset of people that I can get results, but I want to be able to give them that individualized, customized attention. And the second I notice that I can't give a client that, I will know I take no more clients. I will just, that's 20 clients. And I start to notice I pop on a call one day and the energy's down, and I'm not, we're done taking clients. I don't care what I'm making, because I want to make impact in those people's lives. And it doesn't really matter to me. And that's one of the biggest things is, other than clients reaching their weight loss goals is to know that, because I think that's so important, because I think you and I both know in the space that we're in, so many people, it's just how much money can I make? It's like, well, how about we can just, how much impact can we put a smile on their face? Like sometimes that's all they need, you know? I literally had a client one time that literally I just needed to give her a little bit of encouragement and tell her she's doing a good job and I'm proud of her. 2 pounds down the next week, but that's all she needed, you know? So.
Absolutely. Preach, Nathan. That was great.
I'm
so into everything. I said preach. That was great. I got some questions here from the internet, from Instagram. We got a few of them.
Let's fire them on.
To answer?
Let's fire those puppies on. Let's do it.
So what is it? We touched on like weight and like what is average before, or like to lose, but what is a healthy amount to fluctuate in weight from day to day? I think this person said, I've hit my maintenance, so now I'm weighing myself daily. What's a healthy amount to fluctuate day to day? And you probably give numbers for men and for women, maybe.
You can, well, it's just really the easiest answer and typical is about your weight can fluctuate about 5 pounds in a day. And it depends on a whole bunch of factors. How much have you ate? How much have you drank? Have you had a bowel movement? All those factors come into, you know, how much you weigh. Like you could eat a big meal and be 3-4 pounds up because you've got that in your system. And then maybe you haven't, you know, if you're like your one client that didn't poop for a week, like it's still in there, like it's not leaving yet, you know. Could you have had a higher sodium meal? Water retention's a thing with that. So like I let clients know it can fluctuate between 5 pounds, but if you weigh yourself every day and take the average, and let's say it's 150 from week 1, it's 149 from week 2, you lost weight.
Cool. And sleep too, right? Sleep can affect that as well, like a higher fluctuation, or?
No, it will because you're eating more. Sleep doesn't have this. Yeah, sleep is more long-term like weight gain. It's not
right. So sleep deprivation causes more calories to come in the following day, and that's what causes the fluctuation.
Bingo. That's another. Yep.
How much vitamin D?
What did you say? Did you say how much vitamin D?
Oh, I think we froze a little bit, folks. Oh, there he is. Hi, you back?
Yeah. So vitamin D, I think it was how much, right? How much vitamin D do we need
per day?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And the RDAs is not enough. Most people, most of the time, if you're not, actually, I think we found even living close to the equator in Florida, even if you're out for like 15 minutes a day, start with 5,000 international units. If you find that you need more than 5,000 international units a day, I definitely would contact your physician or a dietitian to actually get lab values and see what you go for. So vitamin D and calcium are very tightly regulated, but we're finding that supplementing with 5,000 international units seems to be a good approach to start with. But if you find yourself needing more, definitely need to reach out to a dietitian that can see your lab values or a healthcare or like a physician.
What would be some signs that you need more?
Low energy is a great one, and that's really typically the one that most people are really going to see as just low energy, you know. But again, that's kind of one of those deals. I would just say get your values checked, and see what that is. If you are in question, just next time, can I have my vitamin D levels checked? And I think they should be checked more regularly than they are. Or do you have a family history of low levels of vitamin D? My family does. Like I haven't had my levels checked in like a while. I should, but my mom suffers from vitamin D deficiency, so she has to take a ton. So I'm like, well, I got all of her genes. I got her tiny hands and tiny feet, so I probably got that too. So I take 5,000 a day, and I'm probably gonna be getting that test done in the next probably month or two. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. Then I had a bunch of my questions. What do you find clients struggle with the most, and how do you help them with it? If you could pick one, I know there's probably like a bunch, you probably got like a top 5, but like one that stands out.
Tracking their intake.
Okay.
And here's why. What?
Okay.
Just doing it.
Oh, I
Yes.
said just doing it.
Yeah, from the get-go, just doing it. And here's the reason why. Because we're taught that, oh, if you track your intake, like it's excessive and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, do you track your budget? Do you figure out how much money you're spending? Well, yeah, same thing. It's like, so from the get-go, it's not that I get a lot. It's not, I don't actually get a lot of pushback from that, because it's a screening question on my coaching application. Are you willing to track your intake? Because if you're not willing to track your intake, I can't really help you. Now I can, and I always let clients know, I'm just letting you know that we are just doing this until you reach your goal. And then I take it away, because nobody but myself and like maybe a small subset of people want to track their intake forever. I find it fun. Everybody else doesn't. And I realize that, but we have to learn what? But we have to learn.
Oh, I just laughed at that. Like I find it fun, but because I feel the same way. I think we're cutting up a little bit, but I think it's my internet.
But yeah, so I would say tracking their intake is what we struggle with right out of the gate. And then the next thing, I think there's two, and these are the most common things: tracking our intake and getting enough protein. I find that all the females I work with really struggle with getting the adequate amount of protein in per day.
Okay, yeah, protein being the second one. That's something I run into so much as well, and that was on my list of things to ask you as well. Is protein. It's so hard. It's so hard to communicate to people how much protein they need to eat, but also like ways to get it. Can you go into maybe a little bit about like why having adequate amount of protein, maybe like some guidelines for people, like numbers if you wanted to throw them out, but like why it's important and how you help people get more of it, how you build it into their life?
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I think there's a lot of parts to this question. I want to make sure I answer it. So you're asking how much does somebody need? Mm-hmm. And then you're asking how they can increase their protein intake. Is that right?
And why it's important, maybe like a little bit.
Okay, okay, cool.
Why do we talk about protein so much?
Yeah, so how much protein you need is there's a very simple equation. Is you take your weight, you divide it by 2.2, and then you take it times 1.5.
Can you repeat that again? You cut out a little bit. I heard that.
Absolutely. So what you do is the simplest and easiest way to do it is you take your weight, you divide it by 2.2. So you take pounds and then you convert it to kilograms. And then you take whatever your kilogram weight is times 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram. And then that's going to shoot out a number. And then that is the number that you need. Now, just because, so like, if we did quick math, let's just pretend that, what is it? Let's say we got a 160-pound female, right? We're gonna put her into kilograms. So that's 72.7 kilograms. I'm like, okay, I want to increase her protein. I'm gonna take it times 1.5. I'm gonna get 109 grams of protein. I'm gonna round that to 110. Now, let's say client A, let's just say she's only eating 60 grams of protein. I'm definitely 100% not going to be like, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to double your protein intake and you're going to like it. No, we're going to slowly stair step you up to that number. And so that's a really easy way to get to the number that you need. But don't panic if you're not at that number. Just stair step your way up there.
Mm-hmm. Why is it important to be at hitting your numbers with protein?
Yeah, so it comes back to the whole thing about repairing your muscle and if you're losing weight. Now, there are arguments that you should probably have even higher amounts of protein if you're losing weight. But here's the deal. This comes back to the whole optimal versus practical. If I got a client, or if you're somebody that's barely eating any protein, if like we had to take that number, I think by a 2.5, if I recall correctly. I rarely use that number, so I may be completely wrong, but it's either 2 or 2.5. And I find out that they need, like, let's say 200 grams of protein, but they're eating 50. do you think the client's going to eat 200 grams of protein overnight? No, we got to stair step them up. It's just kind of like if somebody wants to back squat 300 pounds, but they're just using the bar, we're probably not going to just throw 3 plates on and just, you know what I mean? We're not just gonna be like, yeah, let's just send it because that's the cool thing to do. No, we're going to destroy the client.
Right.
He or she's probably not coming back, and we're probably fired, and probably permanently fired because we just put this person in the hospital. But this same, not the same thing, but a very similar thing happens when it comes to protein. It's like, okay, well, if you need 110 grams of protein, and I, as the practitioner, is like, well, you better just figure out how to get to 110. Otherwise, you're not going to reach your goals. No, let's stair step you up. Let's find one place that we can increase protein. Can we swap regular yogurt for Greek yogurt? Can, instead of having 2 ounces of chicken breast, can we have 4 ounces of chicken breast? Instead of having almond milk, can we have regular milk?
Ooh, dicey.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of hate on that.
People are gonna
All
the nut milk companies, the nut milk people are gonna be after you. I'm just
kidding. I better just check my phone after recording and like, yeah, I'm gonna get the DMs from those people. No, but really,
my podcast.
What'd you say?
I said my podcast is not that popular. Don't worry yet.
It will be after this.
But I like that you're offering swaps, though, you know, because for a lot of people, it's like, oh, how do I do this? But it's really easy when you replace one thing with another thing, right? You're already doing this thing. Let's just switch it for something else, buy a different product, or with the Greek yogurt example, right?
Yeah, I like to do addition instead of subtraction, and that's one of the biggest things that I do when I work with clients. Is I'm like, okay, well, let's look at their nutrition now. What can we add? And this is another thing, not to dovetail from protein, but I think this would help clients also help people understand, is that I work on, we can optimize later, right? Because again, we come back to the protein example, right? If I'm like, here's the ideal way to get your protein intake, right? But you don't like any of that. Like, does it matter? Like, let's just get you to hit the number. And then we can come in there and be like, okay, well, maybe we could do a different swap. Maybe instead of having like 80% ground beef, maybe we could go 85, but we can optimize later. When it comes to nutrition, I'm a firm believer we need to get you to hit the number first, and we can optimize later. Because what good does it do to hit the number for 2 weeks and then never hit it again? So, and then you're talking about like the benefits of protein. So they're really easy. It's going to help with muscle. It's going to help repair muscle. It's going to help build muscle. It's going to help you feel fuller longer. So most clients is like, oh, I'm eating all these I'm hungry all the time. And I look at their log and they're eating all carbohydrates. You're just hungry. So protein helps with satiety. So if you ever hear anybody on the internet say satiety, essentially what they mean is you just feel fuller longer. And so that's where protein comes into play. And it's used in hundreds, if not thousands, of functions in the human body.
Ooh, that was good. That's a nice little cap off. Yeah. And I think for people who are looking for, I was going to say hashtag, I meant to say quote toning, right? When people say I want to get toned, right? It's like, well, you need to up your protein intake, or even weight loss, fat loss, right? I think a lot of people think I just got to cut calories across the board. But I only ask you this because like, I know, and I've talked about it before, but I think that a lot of people are like, why are these health people harping about protein so much? It can't be that important, right? But it is so, so important for reaching most goals.
Absolutely. And it's so true, like for reaching most goals. And a lot of, clients too, it's like, that's the missing link for some people. I literally had a PT client, and she's like, well, we're doing all the things and I'm not seeing the muscle. And I'm like, well, what if we just increase your protein? And then she's like, oh my God, like, can you see my delts and my arms? And now literally she tells all of her friends, and she like, I got these amazing arms, and like, I get all the credit for it, which I mean, I did a training program, but that was the missing link. Was she no joke was eating like 50 grams of protein, if that, and I don't even think it was that. So it really helped. And that's actually what I talked to my clients about. And they're like, well, I want to put on muscle. I'm like, well, we need to eat protein, because if you want that tone look, it's going to be very hard to achieve that on a low protein diet. I like to call it nutrition protocol, just because that doesn't have the negative connotation yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And it's like, oh wow, and I'm not hungry all the time too. I'm achieving my aesthetic goals, and I'm not hungry and crazy and ravenous all the time and thinking about food, because you're just full and your body's more satisfied with what you're giving it. Protein's tough.
absolutely.
Protein's really tough for people, but it's really like, like you said, I say to so many people, if you do this one thing though, you're going to see an uptick in so many different areas. It just takes a little bit of a concerted effort. We talked about carbs and carb fear. I think we did that one enough. Protein, we did. And then like a bunch of, I put a question sticker up yesterday saying, what do you struggle with the most in terms of nutrition or food or eating? And everything was around restraint. Everybody gave me something like eating at the right time / not eating junk food anymore, remembering food as fuel and listening to my body when I've had enough. I'm addicted to the Popeyes 4-piece platter, and then practicing restraint. I had a lot of the same, and like the Popeyes thing is funny, but like it was a lot of stop myself from doing something. Restraint, how do I stop eating junk food, etc. And I had some conversations with these people to kind of like help them out, but I'd be curious, like, where do you want to go with that? Because I think it's a big thing for people. They're like, if I could just stop doing this. But I think we already touched on it in this episode, but so like kind of like close it out, like, what's your message about that? Or does anything come to mind when I talk about that stuff?
Absolutely. So like the first question, and this is actually one of the first questions that I ask my clients. So like, well, I want to quit doing this. Well, why? Why do you want to quit doing it? What's the reason behind it? Because everybody has that little button on why. Like, did somebody tell you that eating and it's funny, like I've never had Popeye's chicken, but I hear it's good. Not to have that squirrel brain, but the thing of it is like, why do you feel the need to restrict?
Mm.
Right? So my guess is they're probably wanting to maybe lose weight, would be my guess, or they were probably told that the only way to get to X is if you do Y, which, X is weight loss or their nutrition goal, and Y is restriction, right? So many people are putting foods in good or bad boxes. There is no such thing as a bad food. It's overconsumption of said food becomes bad. Like, you can have the Oreo cookie, but you can't, but like if you eat 10 of them, that becomes a problem. That becomes a problem that we need to address. So that one, like, it's going to be hard. Like, I'm going to give the best description I can, but that one really gets down to like the really nitty gritty of why they're making the decision. And there's a lot of questions, but the basic answer I can give is asking yourself why. And the other thing to think about that I want the people that ask those questions, and this is like an amazing question. So the 10, how many people answered that yesterday on your thing?
I think it was like 5 or 6 people.
Yeah, like I think if you guys are listening to this is a very, very awesome question. I'm glad you asked. Is that like, are you following a diet that's not letting you have something? Because I'm willing to bet you're probably following a plan that is not letting you have something you want. It's like, for example, and maybe this will help your audience resonate. It's like, okay, let's say you're working with Vanessa and you're like, you want to know what I really love doing? And Vanessa's like, what? I really love to deadlift. And Vanessa's like, you know what? Someone told me that deadlifts are bad for your back, which they're not. They're not. Trust me. If they were bad for your back, I'd be in a wheelchair because I love that exercise. But it'd be like,
and I hate that statement.
What?
I hear that a lot, and I just, oh my God, my partner says it too sometimes. I'm like, oh, you don't listen to anything. Anyways.
I could go on a rant on that for like 2 hours, so we'll save everybody that. But that would be like, okay, I love deadlifting, but Vanessa's like, you know what? We're not deadlifting today. We're not ever doing it. You should never do it. Well, you're gonna want to do it, right? Like, and then you're not gonna enjoy what you're doing because it doesn't fit into your goals, right? So maybe somebody said, I'm beginning to wonder if this restriction is coming from somebody told them if they didn't have X, that they're not going to be able to achieve Y. Yes, you 100% can have every food you want. You don't have to restrict it. You don't have to restrict anything like you think you do. We just have to figure out what's an appropriate portion size to have that's going to fit your goals. It may be, yes, you can go to the Cheesecake Factory and have the piece of cheesecake, but you can't have the whole cheesecake. Maybe instead of having the hamburger, you can only have half the hamburger. Maybe instead of having 3 cookies, you can have 2 cookies. So it's these little things, you know, that you can have. I think it's just coming from a sense of deprivation. And I don't think that if you have to be super motivated to do something like real, like you have to like beg yourself to do it, you're on the wrong plan.
That's a great sentence right there. Yeah. Big time. I almost want to like end it there. I'm not going to, but I almost want to just like end the recording. We're done. We're out. Yeah. And it becomes like the red button, right? You say, I cannot eat Oreos or I cannot eat refined sugar. It becomes the red button that you just want to push. That somebody says, don't push that button. I know there's a big shiny red button over there, but don't push it. And the second they leave the room, you're going to want to push it so hard, right? And that's when we get into eating a whole box of Oreos or you overdo it because it's a life of lack, right? You're constantly feeling restricted and I don't want to use the word starved, but as opposed to being in an energy of abundance. Everything is available to me all the time and I get to make choices around it. And I find people's relationship with food improves greatly when they do that. When they say, I'm allowed to have this at any point that I want to. And you know what? Actually, I don't. They can be around Oreos and be like, I don't really feel like one right now. You know, it's less of that like itchy, incessant, like you're not allowed to have those and they're sitting right there on the table next to you. It controls you less when you allow yourself to enjoy food all the time and any kind of food. You know, it's just about how you're fueling your body and learning different ways that make you feel the best.
Absolutely. And I would say that like, yeah, that, you know, again, you should never, ever have to subtract something, you know, because most of the general population that, you know, is, or even people that are performance that are like, you know, that are probably listening to this, you don't really need to restrict ever. You know, you just, any foods, you may just not be able to have as much of said food, but you can still have anything you want. It's just, we have to figure out how to fit it into your plan, you know, and again, that's, you know, one of the biggest things that I work with clients is like, you know, I make sure that you can license the right to lose weight. Like if you're like not wanting to eat food and you're restricting things, we may put weight loss on the back burner for a week or two to really get down to the nitty gritty of why that is, you know? So it's, yeah, I think it really,
I also wanted to circle back.
What?
I just remembering now when you said that license to lose weight earlier, and I wanted to touch on it, but I didn't. But yeah, that's really, I've seen other people post about that as well. Like maybe weight loss isn't what the first plan of attack for you, you know?
Yeah. And most of my clients, I mean, I think I've got, out of the ones I've worked with, I even advertise it when I pop on a call with a client. I'm like, you may not lose weight in the first month. And like, wait, what? And they're appalled by it at first, but then once I tell them the reason, it's because, again, getting down to the root cause of why you're not able to reach your weight loss goal is going to take a lot longer than some guy on the internet that's going to put you on a 1,200 calorie diet. That's like someone saying like, well, your squat sucks, so just squat more. Like, oh, cool. So like, we're just going to continue to re-educate the bad squat pattern over and over and over again. Maybe we should look at why their squat sucks. Like,
yeah.
You know,
and like, cool, your goal is to barbell squat 500 pounds. However, in the first month, I see this, and this, and this that needs to be fixed first. You may not touch the bar in the first however long, right? Yeah, it's very similar.
I think Vanessa read my mind because that's actually a selfish goal, not a selfish goal of mine, but a pursuit of mine.
500 pounds? Nice.
Yeah, 500 pound back squat. Everyone heard it here. That's my goal. We're about 295, 315. So we're getting there.
You're manifesting, man. You said it on the podcast. It's happening.
Yeah, I just now told the world it's happening. So watch out. Here we go.
That's awesome. All right, let's wrap it up. My connection's getting fuzzy anyway. Oh my God, we've already been on for almost 2 hours. That's incredible. Great. I'll probably have you on again at some point down the line, do a part 2, because I'm sure there's tons we didn't get to. I think I'm even breaking up right now as I speak. Is there anything that we didn't get to that you wanted to, or any other, anything that you want to say before you go? Also okay to say.
What do you say?
If you got nothing, that's also okay. We can just end it. But if you got something, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Vanessa, I want to thank you for having me come on. I want to thank the audience that you have that, was going to take the time out of their day to listen to this, because I really do feel like we've got a lot of really good nuggets into here that everybody can take and apply. And even if you apply one or two things from this podcast, I feel like you're going to be massively successful. But, if you're somebody, I hope you don't mind. Do you care if I plug my services?
No, go for it. Oh my God. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and plug real quick. So yeah, if you're looking, if you're somebody that's listening to this podcast, you want to know what, I'm sick and tired of not reaching my weight loss goals. I'm sick and tired of just spinning my wheels, right? With nutrition. I would love to work with you. I'll give Vanessa, you can reach out to me at Nathan_Schwartz, which is SCHWARTZ_ dietitian. And then I'm assuming Vanessa will put it in the show notes. You can shoot me a DM there. You can also reach me at nathanschwartzfitness@gmail.com if you want to, talk to me there. I'd love to help you if there in any way that I could. I'd love to serve you. But again, I really just want everybody to know that, like, if you're stuck with nutrition and you need help, don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to help you. I take a really simple approach. I call it the SEF approach. It's simple, it's effective and fun. And I firmly believe that we roll into those tenets. I keep it simple. So if you can use your phone, you qualify. And it's effective and it's fun, because I believe life's way too short, not even on a weight loss journey. Life is way too short to not enjoy the journey. And I'm going to teach you how to love the process. I'm going to teach you how to feel your body. I'm going to teach you to not have food insecurities, and anything else that comes along the way that you need. I'm here to serve you and help you reach your goals.
Oh, that was amazing. Great. That's it. That's all we need. Awesome. Cool. It was lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop this recording now. And yeah, that's it. Thank you everybody for listening. See you later.